Hello, in this video we're going to be going over part A of the Google Sheets activity called Spreadsheets and Graphs. So you're going to start by opening the Google Sheet file titled Groovy Google Sheets, Spreadsheets and Graphs from the Google Classroom. Now most basic commands can be found on the shortcut toolbar, which is up here. Now, because I'm on a split screen, you can't see the whole toolbar, so if you can't, you can click on these three dots where it says More to access more of the icons. Now, any of the icons shown in the instructions below are found on this toolbar. Now, in Google Sheets, anytime it talks about a chart, it really means a graph. So they don't talk about graphs, so if you see a chart, it means a graph. Now, we're going to make a spreadsheet, and this is how the spreadsheet will look when we are completed. So you do not type all of this information in now. What we're going to do is use a whole bunch of different features that will make these calculations. So the first thing you're going to do is use the control and either the plus or the minus buttons. So press and hold the control, and you'll probably press the minus button, but you might need to press the plus button. If you're using a Mac, you're going to click the command and either plus or minus to zoom in or out so that you can see from cells A1 to J9. See, we can't see J9. Now, if you press these buttons and it's not working, you can try going up to Help and under Keyboard Shortcuts, make sure that that is not turned on. So enable compatible spreadsheet shortcuts, you do not want that turned on. So we're going to press Control or Command if it's Mac, and I'm going to be pressing the minus button until I can see J9. Alright, now look at the bottom left. You will see 4 tabs, or what we call sheets. You're going to double click on sheet 1, and this is how you rename it. So we're going to rename that to My Chocolate Addiction, and then press enter. So part of it is already completed for you. We're going to complete the rest of it in this section. So first thing you're going to do here is highlight cells A1 to J1. So from A1, you're going to highlight all the way to J1, and you're going to merge them. So that is this symbol right here where it says merge cells. And then you're going to center them. So this here, horizontal alignment, you're going to change to center. Next is highlight cells A3 to J9. So A3 to J9. Then you're going to center all of those cells. And then you're going to put a border around the cells by clicking on the border icon, which is this right here. You're going to click on here, and you're going to click on, you're just going to click the outside borders, which is this one right here. So you just want the outside borders. Now what you're going to do is change the font, style, and size of the entire sheet. So to do something to the entire sheet, there's a rectangle that is to the left of column A and on top of row 1, which is this. So if you click on this, it highlights the entire spreadsheet, and any formatting you do will occur to all the cells. So we're going to change the format, the font to Cambria here, and we're going to select size 12 for the font. And now what we're going to do is click inside cell B3 So B3 right here. And we're going to type Monday. So these rows are going to be the days of the week. So in this, we're going to type Monday. Now, we could type Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or we could use something called autofill. So for autofill, instead of entering data manually on a worksheet, you can use the autofill feature to fill cells with data that follows a pattern or that is based on data in other cells. So here's an example. You'd be using autofill a lot with these spreadsheets. So what you're going to do is to click once on cell B3 and move your mouse to the blue square in the bottom right corner of the cell. Your mouse will change to a crosshair. So there's the cell, there's the little blue square, and when you click on it, you get the plus sign that's called a crosshair, and you're going to click and hold and drag it all the way to H, and it's going to fill that pattern from Monday all the way to Sunday so that you don't have to type that in. So that's one thing that autofill will do, is that it will fill in a pattern. Now this is what we're going to do for formulas. So we're going to total all of Monday's chocolate bars and only Monday's chocolate bars. So in cell B9, we're going to enter in this formula, equals sum, and you can type B4 to B7, or you can just highlight those cells. So in B9, you can type equals sum, which means you're going to add them. Now, it's a sort of a smart tool, and it already says, I think that you want to sum B4 to B7. So if that's correct, you can just click on this, and that's exactly what we want, and then you can press enter. And then it will give you the sum of all those cells. Now, that may not be the cells that you want to add. Maybe you only want to add a couple of them. So what you can do instead is you can highlight the cells you want, or if you only wanted to add a couple, like if you only want to know Mars bars and Kit Kat, you can click on Mars bars, hold the control and click on Kit Kat, and it would just add those two. But we want to add them all, so we're going to highlight all of them. Highlighting is faster than actually typing it in. So here's what you need to know about formulas. Formulas must always start with an equal sign. When you're selecting the cells, you do not have to type in the letter and number. So you don't have to type in B4 to B7. You can just highlight the cells instead. Now what we want to do is find the sum, the total number of chocolate bars for each day of the week. So we're going to autofill the total formula all the way to H9. So here's another use for autofill. Autofill will sometimes fill sequences like this or patterns, but it will also fill formulas from one cell to the next. So when you click on cell B9, go to that blue square to get the crosshairs and drag it over to H9, what it's going to do is add up all the chocolate bars for each day. And what it does is it carries the column over with it. So this is the sum of the numbers in column B. When you fill it over, these are the sum of the numbers in column C, and etc. D, all the way to column H. Now in cell J3, you're going to type in the following text, individual totals. So J3, individual totals. And if you want, you can click or go in between cells J and K to get those arrows on either side. Click and drag to make that cell a little bit bigger to fit the word individual totals. And what you're going to do now is total each row. So now for each chocolate bar, you're going to find out how many were sold for the entire week. So now what we're going to do is find the sum for the entire row, and that will tell you how many Mars bars for the entire week were sold. And then you're going to autofill all the way down. To J7. Now you're going to put a grand total in, so you're going to click in cell A11, and you're going to type in number of chocolate bars consumed in a week. Highlight the cells from A11 to D11 and merge them horizontally. So A11 to D11, we're going to merge them horizontally. In cell E11, use the sum formula to either add up all the daily totals or add up all the individual totals. Either way, you'll have the same answer. So in E11, we're going to find out the total number of all chocolate bars for the whole week. So we're either going to add up all of the daily totals or we're going to add up all of the individual totals. Either way, it'll give us the same answer. So equals sum, and we can add up all of these. So that tells us there were 80 chocolate bars sold in total for the whole week. Alright, now we're going to create a new heading. So in cell A13, which is here, you're going to type in cost of addiction. So we're going to find out how much it costs to eat all of these chocolate bars. Now we're going to merge and center the title to cell C13. So all the way to cell C13, we're going to merge, and we're going to center it. Step 12, we're going to highlight the chocolate bar names, and you're going to copy it, so Control C or Command C for Max, and then you're going to paste them either using Control V or Command V for Max into cell A15. So in A15, we're going to paste those in there. Now we're going to type in the following. In cell B14, so B14, you're going to type in number. In cell C14, so you can just press tab and it will move over, you're going to type in cost. Now, in cell D13, so that's up here, you're going to type in price, and tab. In cell E13, you're going to type in 0.9. Now that 0.9 is what each chocolate bar will cost. We're going to change the units and format all of this later. Don't worry, just type it in as it is. So what we're going to end up finding is how many of each chocolate bar we are buying, how much each of those will cost in total, given that each chocolate bar costs 90 cents. So highlight your 4 individual totals in the J column. Copy and paste them into cell B15. So Control or Command C, and then over here, Control or Command V. And you're going to get this, and that's normal. You will see that the cells display this hashtag ref with an exclamation mark. You can't always copy formulas from one cell to another because these were formulas, and you can't always copy formulas into another set of cells. So you're going to click on the clipboard icon right here, and you're going to select Paste Values Only. So it's going to get rid of the formulas, and it's just going to paste what the numbers were. So this 17 came from a formula. So now what we're doing is we're going to ignore the formula, and we're just going to have the numbers here. Now we're going to determine the cost. So we bought 17 Mars bars, and each cost 90 cents. So to get the weekly cost of each chocolate bar, we need to multiply the number of bars eaten in 1 week by the price. And that price was 0.9, that means 90 cents. This is going to go in the cost column. So in cell C15, you're going to type in this formula. So equals B15, which is the number of Mars bars, multiply, which is the star key, E13, which is the price, but don't click enter yet. Before you do so, you have to click the F4 button on your keyboard. Now sometimes it won't work if you click the F4 keyboard or F4 button. Sometimes you have to press and hold the function FN button and then the F4 button. What we want is for that E13 to change and look like $E, $13. I'll explain why in a minute. I just want to make sure that you can do it. So you can try just at the very end of E13 pressing F4. If that doesn't work, press the function, press and hold the function, and then the F4. And you should get $E, $13. If neither of those work, read down here because there could be some settings that you need to change. And other than that, we may need to troubleshoot why it's not working for you. Worst case scenario, you can just type in $E, $13. But if you can use the F4 button, it just makes it faster. We're going to be using these dollar signs a lot. So I'm going to explain why we're doing this. To start with, press enter. And what we're going to do is autofill the formulas down to C18. So click on C15, go to that blue square to get the crosshairs, and fill it down. Now, this is why we need the dollar signs. As we fill down, we want B15 for the number of Mars bars times E13 to be the price. When we fill this down to find the price for the Twix bars, we want to use 27 B16 as the number of Twix bars, but we want to still use this number here. If we did not put the dollar signs, this row number would increase by 1, and this row number would increase by 1. So this would say B16 times E14. And then this one would be the number of Kit Kat bars, and it would be B17 times B15. So let me show you. If we just did equals the number of Mars bars times the price, enter, and then filled that down, we'd have a problem because as this number changes from B15 to B16 to B17 to B18, this cell the row will also go down from E13 to E14 to E15 to E16. But we want this to always stay E13. And that's why you need the dollar signs, and that is called absolute cell referencing. So those dollar signs mean as you fill down, always keep this as E13. Change these rows as we go down to B16, B17, B18, but always keep this as B13. So you can see here the number of chocolate bars changes from B15 to B16 to B17 to B18, but the price always stays as E13, and the price will only stay as E13 if you use the dollar signs. So that's what absolute cell reference is. So when using autofill, there may be times when you don't want a cell reference to change. You can keep the row and or the column constant by a dollar sign preceding the row and or column. So for instance, $A, $2, or you could just do $A2, which might mean that the column A would stay the same, but the row does not have the dollar sign, so the row would change. Or sometimes you might do something like $2, which means your column could change because there's no dollar sign in front of it, but the row would always stay 2 because there's a dollar sign in front of it. So usually you're going to be using dollar signs in front of both. Now we're going to calculate the grand total. So in cell A20, we're going to type in weekly total, and then a colon, and then in cell A21, you're going to type in annual total. Now in cell B20, what you're going to do is find an appropriate formula to calculate the weekly total number of bars, and then in B21, the annual total number of bars. So the weekly total number of bars is equal the sum of all of these numbers. So in total, we had 80 chocolate bars, which was the same as what we calculated here. For the annual total, there's 52 weeks in a year, so it's the number of chocolate bars in a week, which was cell B20, and we're going to multiply it by 52 because there's 52 weeks in a year. So that's 4,160 chocolate bars in the year. Now what we're going to do is highlight these two cells and fill them to the right to find the weekly and annual totals for the price. So if you highlight these and fill them over, this 72 is the sum, so the weekly total for the cost, and this is the annual total for the cost. So for a week we spent $72 on chocolate bars, and for the year $3,744. Now what we're going to do is change some of our cells that involve money to have a unit of currency. We're not going to be highlighting cells in order. So to highlight multiple cells that aren't connected, what you would do is click and hold the Control button or the Command button for Macs, and then click on the cells that you want to edit. So we're going to highlight all the cells containing money values at the same time. So to start with, click on cell E13. So click on the first cell you want to highlight, then press and hold the Control button. Then highlight cells C15 to C18. You release the mouse button, keep holding Control. Then click on cells B20 and B21. Once you have highlighted all the cells you want to change the or all the cells that you want to highlight. Now you can release the control button, and we're going to change the units to dollars by clicking on the currency icon, which looks like a dollar sign. If you don't see the dollar sign, our dollar sign is right there, but if you don't see it, you could click on this and change it to currency. But a faster way is to just click on this. But if you don't have that, you can click here and go to currency. So now it's changed everything to do with money to be dollars, and it also shows the cents. Now, using the formatting features, so we're going to be using centering, bolding, font, change the font colors, cell fills, borders, etc. We're going to make it look nice, and we're going to make it look, maybe like what this looks like. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. You can play around with it, but to change the inside color of a cell, you can click here, and here, cost of addiction. And since we're highlighting cells that aren't adjacent, you have to press the control button in between. And you're going to go to fill color, and we're going to change that to black. Again, you don't have to do it exactly. You could choose your own colors. And then we're going to change the text color to white. So this A here is text color, and we'll change that to white. Maybe we'll bold it. Next, you might want to change some of the row colors, because sometimes when you change the row colors and alternate shading like this, it just makes it easier on your eye to follow through. So perhaps this row, and press the control button and individual totals, and these will make them fill with a sort of a dark gray. Maybe go a bit darker. Maybe we want to center these and bold them as well. And quite often, like I said with cells, you want to alternate row colors to make it easier on the eyes. So maybe these rows, the Kit Kat row, and again, you can do it whatever way you want. And then the daily totals, and then the Mars bars, and the Kit Kat. We can maybe do in a very pale gray. And then these other ones, alternating rows, you can do in a bit of a darker, like that. It's just a little bit easier on the eyes to follow along here. You might want to bold these, and you might want to bold these, and center these. Now, because we want to show that this price goes with this, what we sometimes do is right justify price and left justify the numbers so it looks like they go together. And we could maybe bold the price. Again, not saying you have to do all of this. These are just different things that you can do. Over here we also have this bolded, and we have this centered, and these are bolded, and these are centered. And the only other thing is we have a border around here, so highlight all of that and put a border around it. So really format this whichever way you want, but that's how you can make a spreadsheet and format it. The only thing else that I will say is we had talked about changing the size of this by dragging here. So if you find that the text is too big for a cell, as I said, you could click here and drag it, but you could also click here, or sorry, hover here and just double click it, and it will automatically size that for you. Okay, now what we're going to do is to make some graphs, which they call charts. Now a bar graph is what they call a column chart. So we're going to make a column chart showing the individual totals for each chocolate bar. So over here, always read these boxes. So charts, if you want to make a graph, you highlight the data you want to graph, and from the insert menu, you insert a chart and you format it whatever way you wish. And we're going to go over all of that. So highlight cells A4 to A7, A4 to A7, and we also want J4 to J7. So remember, you have to first highlight A4 to A7, then press the Control or Command button, then highlight J4 to J7. Do not press the Control or Command button before the first highlighting. You always have to highlight the first part first. From the Insert menu, you're going to select Chart, and again, it's kind of smart. It tries to think of what kind of a graph that you would want to make here. So it thinks you want to make a column chart, which is what we want. If the graph they think you want to make is not the graph you want to make, you can click here and you can change the graph to whatever type you want. But we do want a column chart. So automatically Google will select the type of chart it thinks you want. If you want to change the type of chart, you can do that under the Chart Types tab right here, and select. Now we're going to select the Customization tab. Once you know that that's what you want, you can now click here to customize it. So we're going to format the chart the following way. You can choose whatever formatting features you want, but here are some guidelines. A sample completed chart follows these instructions, so this is what we kind of want it to look like. If yours doesn't look exactly like that, that's okay. You can choose your own colors or whatever, but here are some guidelines. So we're going to click on Chart and Axis Titles. What this allows you to do is to title the graph and change the title of, or add the title of, the X and Y axis. So the chart title, we're going to call it My Chocolate Addiction, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to choose whatever font type, color, size, or format you want of that. So the title font, you can change it if you have a particular font that you like. The font size, you can change. Make it bigger, make it smaller, whatever you want. You can change, you can bold it, you can italicize it, you can center it, and you can change the color of the text. Maybe you want it to be, this is black, but maybe you want it to be blue. It's up to you. You pick whatever colors you want or fonts. Now you're going to change the title type to horizontal axis title. So here we're going to go to horizontal axis title. This will allow us to label the x-axis and change the formatting. So we're going to label this as type of chocolate bar. And if you want, change the font to something interesting, change the size, bold it, italicize, whatever you want, change the color. That's up to you. Now we're going to change the title type to vertical axis title, and this will allow us to change the y-axis. So this is going to be frequency or number of chocolate bars. So this is individual weekly totals. again, change the font if you want, change the size, bold, italic, change the color, whatever you want. Now what you're going to do is click on Series. Under Series, this is where you get to change the color of the bars. So it's up to you what you want to pick. Maybe you want to make an all blue theme. I don't know, play around with it, decide what you want. If you want black, just pick whatever you like. You can choose whether the axis is on the left or the right. The other thing is you may want to add data labels, so that tells you what the numbers actually are. And again, you can change the font of all of these, change the colors, everything you can do here. Trend line, that will be when we get into making scatter plots. That's basically a line of best fit, which isn't appropriate here. The next thing is legend. Now, we don't need a legend in this case, but if you did have a legend, you could decide where you want to put it. Since we only have one variable, if you are making a multiple bar graph, then you might need a legend to know what bar goes with which we're going to be doing later. But right now we don't need one. Under horizontal axis, this is where you get to choose how to format these things here. Mars bars, Twix, Kit Kat, other. So change the font, change the color again, do whatever you want. And also what you can do, if these are, it's not in this case, but if these are crowded, you could choose to put these at an angle to make them fit better. And vertical axis would allow you to change the maximum and the minimum values of the vertical scale, because sometimes you don't want to start at 0. That would allow you to change all of that. You can change all of the things that we've talked about before. If you wanted to change the maximum or the minimum, you would do it here. Most of this other stuff you won't touch. And then lastly, grid lines. Now, if required, you can add or you can remove the grid lines. So your major grid lines, you could have no grid lines at all, or you could just have one here, or you could add in whatever you want here. Auto, they kind of choose it for you. You can change the color of the grid lines. Minor grid lines would be, for instance, how many grid lines in between these major ones. So if you want 2 in between, or if you want 5 in between, that's up to you. And that is how you would format your chart. Now, you can close that, and you can always reformat the chart by clicking on the chart. And there's 3 things you can do to get that editor back. You can click on the 3 dots and go to Edit Chart to get that editor back up. Or you could right-click on it and just choose what you want to edit. Or you could just double-click and get that. So there's different ways that you can get that editor back up. Now, sometimes your data has more than one variable, but the frequencies are broken into multiple strata. So, if you want to make a chart that compares a variable with 2 or more strata, in this case, strata could be the different days of the week, or your strata could be, if you are comparing the days of the week, the strata could be the different chocolate bars. You're going to create a multiple chart, which shows multiple lines or bars side by side, or you can do a compound chart, which shows the lines or the bars stacked on top of each other. For example, our variable is the chocolate bar type. But rather than an overall frequency, the frequencies are broken down into the days of the week. In this case, we can make a multiple or component chart. So what we're going to do is, instead of just showing the total for the week, we're going to make a chart that shows each day, not just the total. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to highlight cells A3 to H7. So A3 to H7. And you're going to insert a column chart. So insert chart. And right now it's thinking what we want here is a stacked column chart. So here, this is the one it's thinking that we want is a stacked column chart. But what we want instead is we don't want them to be stacked, we want them to be side by side. So that's going to be here, and that's just called, in Google, it's called just a column chart, but we usually call them a multiple column chart. So we're going to change it to this. So instead of, for each day of the week, the Mars bars, and then the number of Twixes on top of it, and the number of Kit Kats on top, and the number of other on top, if we change this, then they're side by side instead of on top of each other. Now, if you uncheck switch rows and columns, then what it does is it has the different types of chocolate bars, and each column represents the day of the week, versus comparing the different days of the week and each bar representing the different types of chocolate bars. So you can change the variable and the strata by clicking switch rows and columns. So let's have it unchecked. So we're going to be comparing the types of chocolate bars, and then within each showing the days of the week. So an example is what it should look like here. You're going to format everything to make it look like this. So customize, under chart and axis title, the title is going to be My Chocolate Addiction. And this time we do need the legend, but you can change where you want the legend. So the legend could be at the top, the legend could be at the bottom, it could be on the left, it could be on the right. If you press auto, it just chooses where to put it, but you can change where you want it. And, sorry, back under chart and title, we need to change the horizontal axis to chocolate bar type, and the vertical axis title needs to be frequency, or you can type it as daily totals. It doesn't really matter, but there is your chart, nicely formatted. Change the formatting as you want, different colors, different fonts again, but you get the idea. Now we're going to make a line chart showing how the daily totals for each day have changed over the week. So to do that, we're going to highlight cells B3 to H3 and then B9 to H9, so make sure you press the control button in between. So B3 to H3, press and hold the control button, and then B9 to H9, and then from insert, chart, and you can see it does not automatically choose a line chart, so you're going to select the line chart icon, and that still doesn't look like a line chart, it looks even worse. So what you have to do here is to switch rows and columns, and then now it's looking a little bit more like it should. To get the days of the week, what you have to do is change combine ranges to be vertical. And now we can format, so we can add a title. We can add the x-axis and the y-axis title just the way you did before. You can add the data labels and change grid lines just as we did before. So I'll leave you to do that on your own. Lastly, if you wanted to make a multiple line graph, what you're going to do is to highlight from A3, to H7, and then from the insert chart, again, you're going to have to change it to a line graph. Now luckily here they've put in the days of the week, they've put in the different types of chocolate bars, so all you have to do is go into customize and change the titles and do any other formatting that you want. So that's the basics on formatting spreadsheets using the fill features and the formulas and the basics of making and formatting charts. And that concludes section A.